Hey there gamers, I'm Professor Meg, and this is a preview of The Presence. Welcome back to the Board Game Code channel, and that's right, this is a preview of The Presence. The Presence is an upcoming game on Kickstarter by Purple Lantern Games, and before we get started, I just want to note two things that I almost always note. Number one, this is a sponsored preview, so this is sponsored by the publisher, and number two, this is a prototype copy. This is an upcoming Kickstarter, so this is a prototype. All of the components are subject to change and be updated and enhanced and things like that, especially with different feedback that they get from their playtest group, so please keep that in mind. However, this will give you a great feel for how the game plays and everything you'll need to know about whether you want to check it out more. And speaking of, the link will be down below, so if you want to see their crowdfunding link, the Kickstarter is now live and you can go check it out. The Presence is a board game that is simulating a ghost story tale. Now, it is a game for 2 to 5 players. However, it is recommended for there to be 2 visitors. There is a 2-player variant, which is playable, but what is happening is there's one player that will always play as the spirit, which is the one haunting the area that you are playing within on this board, and then everyone else will be playing as visitors. There are at least 2 visitors and more depending on how many people are playing, and the game will scale depending on the number of players. There are different things added based on how many people you're playing with, up to 5, and you'll be playing as these different investigators moving along the house, trying to help this spirit escape from it, whatever you may need to do, because it is semi-cooperative. Now, that is because the spirit that you are playing as can be good or evil. Now, the visitors do know what it will be. So you can see up here, the visitors do have all of this information available to them. They know that this spirit here, which is veiled in moonlight, will be one of these 4 types of spirits. They either want leave me be, together forever, which are both vengeful, meaning that the spirit is playing the game against them, or there is regretful, and it's either understand me or believe in me. And these are when the spirit wants to be helping the other players. Now you can see that these tokens represent those 2 tracks, and the spirit will know which of those 2 tracks that they are working toward, however the players do not know. The players will be taking the actions that the spirit does, kind of basing that on what they think the spirit may be. However, if you are a good spirit and doing everything as sneakily as possible, you'll probably start off good no matter what, right? And then after a little bit, things may be opportunistic and happen for you, and then, oh no, you become evil. Now, even if you are a good spirit, there is a mechanic where when time runs out, you might get upset and you're angry that they haven't helped you yet, and you are still a powerful spirit, so you wreak havoc instead. So you can still win as the spirit, you can still win as the spirit regardless, but you can still destroy all of the other visitors, even if you're good, if they don't help you fast enough. Now, all of this is determined by your hope track over here. Your hope track has a few things going on, but at the end of every round, your time mover will move up. Now, when that happens, it will move it closer to these 2 other tokens, and you have your fear token and your hope token. Now, players, again, do not know which of these 2 the spirit is currently vying for, and those 2 tokens only really matter for the spirit. However, you do have things that will happen that will allow you to augment this so that you can increase your time available by moving these further back on the track. Now, this track does show you where they would start, so they started here and then moved further down the board. Now, when the time track and one of the tokens meet, if that is what your spirit is, you will reveal your secret card, which we'll see what this one is now. Leave me be a vengeful spirit. So this would be a bad spirit, which means this would be revealed when these 2 trackers meet. This one would be discarded when they meet, and this one would trigger this being revealed. And once it was revealed, the spirit would win if 2 visitors perish. So you can see that they want bad things to happen. If all visitors perish, which right now this is only set up for 2 visitors, they would also lose the game, which means only one group can lose or win. The Presence is trying to simulate a ghost story for you to be playing through with your friends. So you don't know exactly who's good and bad, but you're also moving along on a board that you have a lot of secrets that are going on. This is something that I really enjoyed that I want to show you, but I think it does give you that sense of exploration throughout the game. So you can see on the board that it has the different rooms available. There's the Great Hall, the parlor, the gallery, etc. But they also have these door pieces. So the doors can be opened or closed, and that's a mechanic throughout the game that if doors are open, you can hear things through them. You can also move through them. However, it will cost you a move action, 1 move point, to open a door if you need to open them. Some doors can also be locked, and you can only unlock them if you have a key. Now again, the doors will be opening and closing both depending on players and on the spirit that is moving around the board and the different actions that they do. So you may be spending time opening and closing doors as you're trying to go through. Now, closing doors as you're moving out is a free action for the visitors, but it is something that the spirit may trigger just to do a certain action to them so that they have to spend time opening the doors to leave the room. Another thing that is very effective in these areas is darkness. So if darkness is available, different cards that you play will have different effects. It could be negative, it could be positive. Obviously, the spirits are more spooky in the darkness, so they will have better effects, and the visitors may have a harder time in the darkness doing certain things. However, they may only be able to take certain actions if they are in the dark. Now you can see that the dining hall up here has a fireplace. That means that this room is always lit, and you aren't able to put the fireplace out unless you have something specifically to do it, and then you can see that it does go out, but that normally wouldn't happen. Now the visitors are moving around with candles, and that's the other way that you would have light throughout the game, is that you do have a candle token that you're able to use to move around. There are different investigators for players to choose from, and this gives them their separate investigator decks, as well as different abilities that they're able to do. So each of the investigators does have an ability that makes them more useful throughout the game. It's not extremely overpowered, but it does give them a special something to make them feel like they are that person. Now on top of that, you have your deck, but you also have items that you may acquire throughout the game. These items are played separately in front of you. You can have up to 2 items at a time, but you will be discarding most of them to be taking certain actions, having it increase things for you and be helpful, so you'll be also going through the items along with your action cards to be maneuvering around the board. Now, the point of what you're doing is you're moving along this board trying to uncover these different clue tokens. Now, there are the haunted clue tokens, which are put there by the spirit, and there are also these small clue tokens, which will do other things for you as well. These ones are more dangerous, but give you better effects, and these ones are a little bit more predictable. Now what players want to be doing is drawing these different clue cards. This clue deck is comprised of a couple of things, but most of them are going to be cards that look like this. There are also fear cards in here that the spirit is using to scare the different visitors, and there are also spirit items, which you can see the professor has here. There's a locket, and those will give them different abilities as well that are added depending on the spirit that you're playing with. Now, another thing to keep in mind that I didn't mention is depending on the spirit you're playing with, they will have certain cards chosen for their spirit deck, and they will also have different endings available for them. So they may not necessarily always have these 4 available, these will change, but the visitors will always know which ones it could be, they just don't know exactly which one it is. And they'll be using the actions that the spirit is taking to determine that. But back to the clues, there are these 4 different secrets that the spirit has. Now these represent the 4 different reasons the spirit would become a haunted ghost that is wreaking havoc along these visitors, and it is going from most important to them in their life to least important. Now that's just a little bit of flavor for you, but what you're actually doing is a clue puzzle, which I think is very clever. Now you are discarding these different cards to different discard piles once you're able to discard them, and you are trying to have the symbol be where the different fear cards are. Where the different secret cards are. Now players will know that this deck is comprised of exactly what these cards are, which was developed by the spirit player. The spirit player set up these cards and put these into play, then being able to have this be a little deduction puzzle. So if you look below these cards, you can see that it has a different number above each of them. So there are 2 of the symbol of this card in this deck. There are 3 of the symbol on this card in this deck, and you can see that some have already been discarded. So, to do the puzzle a little bit more, you can see that there are now 3 coffins in play, and there are also 2 hearts, 2 mirrors, and 1 mask. Now, having 1 mask in play, it likely may be this card. And little do you know, there was something that previously allowed a player to peek at it, so they actually know that this is the betrayal card. So you can see that it matches that symbol there. There are only 2 of these in this deck, and the more that you discard, you are able to understand which ones they may be. For example, if you have 5 coffins discarded, it can only be this last one because there are 5 in the deck, and that's the only one with 5 in the deck. So the more clue cards that you are able to discard, you are able to deduce which of these are where, and that is how the visitors get closer and closer to winning the game. Now, as I showed you earlier, the spirit player has a few different ways to win the game. Depending on what type of spirit they are, they may want the visitors to win the game, in which case they'll be helpful with these clues and give them certain hints that they're able to give through cards and things that they're playing in the game. But if they're a bad spirit, they'll play them well and take certain actions to deceive them and play them and hopefully scare them and kill them by the end. There are a few other things available to players throughout the game, such as this item pile, that is what you were searching for, and things will be ended up in the discard pile. You can see that there are cards here that they are able to search for in the cellar, and depending on the number of players, you will add additional rooms as well. As you can see here are some of the rooms that we did not play with in this scenario, but we have the study, the bedroom, the bathroom, and the music room. Overall, The Presence is meant to be a horror game similar to a ghost story, and it definitely does give that uneasy feeling. The visitor players will never be sure if they can trust the spirit or not, even if they seem good, unless they do something really evil and then they can be sure that they're evil. And then it's just scary from the get-go because you know your friends are coming after you. So even for the spirit, it can also be scary for them because they're not sure if they're going to have to turn on their friends if they're not able to help them fast enough. Now, there is a degree of silence in this game where you're not able to give certain strategic advantages. So if players are in the same room, if they're able to hear each other by the hearing rules, you are able to discuss things with each other. However, if you are closed off in different rooms, you're not really able to discuss specific strategy, just exactly what the actions you are doing, and the spirit player is never able to discuss strategy with the visitors. They're able to communicate sometimes. There are some cards that, for example, will able to let them communicate a single word. So things like that will happen, but overall it is a game of a lot of uneasiness and hoping you can trust the people around you. This has been a preview of The Presence. As a reminder, their Kickstarter link is down below, and thank you to Purple Lantern Games for sponsoring this video. I am Professor Mag, thank you for watching the Board Game Code channel, and I will see you in the next preview. Bye!